It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, so today is the anniversary of the Battle of Gonzales. That's right, it happened on October the 2nd of 1835. Also, I want to talk about Colorado. Man, you know that cop in Colorado, arrested a suspect, rightfully so. And then the suspect was in the back of the vehicle, police vehicle. But the only problem is the police officers parked on the tracks of a train. We're going to show that video and why the suspect was handcuffed in back of the vehicle. Ooh, bad decision. Also, there seems to be a lot of confusion about the press release that I released last week when it comes to the FBI and the ATF are fishing for information from federal firearms licensed dealers. So let me clear that up and then clear that up right now, But before I clear that up, also, we have Clinton Rary. He is actually running for Austin City Council District number 1. We have him inside the studio. We're going to talk to him, talk about some of the his things that he's working on, his platform. We're going to talk about homelessness. We're going to talk about crime in Austin, Texas, because I'm telling you right now, if you continue to vote for the same people, you put the same people back in office, you do the same thing over and over again. We call that insanity. So we got to stop the insanity. We need to stop what's happening in Austin and reverse it a little bit, and let's get back down to reality here. And I'm going to tell you about some things that are happening in North Austin, where we actually solved our homeless problem in North Austin. And I'll tell you what we did, how we did that. All right, but Clinton's here, and Clinton's going to tell us his plan to help Austin, to build Austin, to grow Austin, and get back to that original Austin. Keep it weird, that Austin, that's what we're talking about. Also, let's get back to this. ATF, the FBI are fishing for information from federal firearms licensed dealers. All right, so earlier this week, I released a press release where I talked about the FBI and the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They're fishing for your information. And so here's what happens. When you walk into a gun store, the federal firearms licensed dealer, and you fill out a firearms transaction record, a 4473, what happens is we type in your information, we do a background check on you by sending that information into the Knicks, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. And then they run your information, they run that through the CJIS, the Criminal Justice Information System, and we get a response. We get a response, either proceed, out you go with the gun, or delayed. You have to wait 3 business days, not including weekends or holidays, or you're denied. If you're denied, then you cannot walk out the gun store. You either lied on the form, something's going on, so you're denied. Nada. So if we get that denied, what happens is, as of September of 26th, this past Monday, there's a bill that passed in Congress. It was signed, it passed the House, it passed the Senate in Washington, D.C., it was signed by the President of the United States and became law. And so it's called the Knicks Denied Notification Act. Now, what that does is, if you are denied from purchasing a firearm from a gun store or federal firearms licensed dealer, then you are reported to the FBI and to the local law enforcement. Now, let me clear this up. You are reported to the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and you're reported to every law enforcement agency in the country. I want to make sure that's crystal clear. So if you're denied from purchasing that gun, which I don't have a problem with that, not at all, because if someone's denied from purchasing a gun, then law enforcement need to take a look at that and see what's going on and why is this person trying to buy a gun if they're a prohibited person. The problem I have is the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, is taking upon themselves to add delayed transactions in that. Now, the bill does not mention delayed at all. The bill only mentions denied. So a delay. If you're delayed from walking out of the gun store, that means that's a 3 business day delay. Does include weekends or holidays. And most gun stores can transfer the firearm to you after 3 business days. Some of your major stores will not do that. They'll wait until they get a proceed. They never get a proceed, then you don't get the gun. But most gun stores around the country will transfer that firearm to you after 3 business days. If you're delayed, the ATF has taken upon themselves to add delays to reporting you to the FBI and local law enforcement. So that information is put in the CJIS, the Criminal Justice Information System. If you're delayed when you walk into a gun store, and a person can be delayed for a number of reasons. One thing, you walk into the gun store, let's say your name is similar to someone else's. Your name is John Smith or Carlos Rodriguez. Very common name, you're going to get delayed. You're born out of the country, you're going to get delayed. You have a criminal history, you're going to get delayed because they have to verify that information with either local court or police department or whatever, in that area and figure out what's going on with this record. Maybe the police department or the court didn't file the record like they're supposed to. So they have to do a further review. It takes them a little longer to figure that information out. So that is why you are delayed. So with the FBI, ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, giving this information to the FBI and local law enforcement, to me, that poses a problem because, they're getting your data. And I don't ever remember government agencies actually deleting your data. They're supposed to delete your information when we do background checks, so they say. But I don't think that actually happens because when we're getting inspected by the ATF, they come to inspect and they have a list of people that they want to take a look at. And it's people that have done transactions over a year ago. So if they're supposed to delete information after 80 days, why are they coming with a list from a year ago? So I don't believe them. Okay. So that is why I released this press release on why is information being shared with all law enforcement agencies, the FBI, when a person is delayed. That information should wait until that delay turns into a denial. Once it turns into a denial, then that information should be shared with the FBI and local law enforcement. Only then, not before then. They're saying that the reason that they don't want they want us to give them this information beforehand is because if a delay turns into a denial, they won't be able to meet the 24-hour time frame they have to notify local law enforcement. And I say I don't believe you because you're putting the information in the CJIS, the Criminal Justice Information System. And so all it takes is you to type that information in and submit it, and every law enforcement agency in the country will know immediately. So we don't have 24 hours. It's the same time frame. And you're also not notifying the FFL dealer, the Federal Firearms License dealer, that person has been denied. So there's a chance that law enforcement will know before the dealer knows. And that, I have a problem with it. I initiated that check. I need to know what's going on. I don't want someone walking to the gun store and saying, what's going on? There's an issue here because they've had an investigation. Police have shown up. And guess what? I don't have a clue. I need to know what's going on as the Federal Firearms License dealer. We come back from the break and talk about this and more. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give you reasonable belief that there was an immediate threat of harm.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so remember, folks, I'm telling you, you need to get your license to carry a handgun. If you don't want to be pinged, and you don't want the federal government, you don't want the FBI in your business knowing what guns you have. You don't want your local law enforcement knowing what guns you have. Get your license to carry a handgun. The way to bypass what they're trying to do in Washington, D.C., they're trying to step into Texas and make Texans registered. They're trying to get a database. To bypass this database they're trying to make in Washington, D.C., all you got to do is get your license. When you get your license, what happens is you walk into the gun store. That gun store puts your license to carry handgun information on the form, and they don't run your background check through the system. That paperwork stays with the gun store. The only time that information will be shared outside the gun store is if you buy, listen to me good, if you buy 2 handguns or more in a 5-day period, or 2 rifles or more in a 5-day period, that gun store has to report you to the FBI and local law enforcement. That is 2 handguns in a 5-day period, 2 rifles in a 5-day period. You're reported to the FBI and local law enforcement. So, and also if your gun is stolen or used in a crime. So it's simple. Don't get your gun stolen, don't use it in a crime, and don't buy 2 handguns or 2 rifles or more in a 5-day period. If you buy 2 rifles or more in a 5-day period, come to Central Texas Gun Works, because we are a manufacturer of firearms, so we don't report rifle sales. We only report handgun sales. So simple. There you go. Now you have your answer. Get your license, spread them out, and you're good to go. Okay? Now, I can tell you that here on the radio show. I cannot tell you that in the gun store. All right, I can only tell you that here now. In the gun store, I'm just going to smile, take your money, run your background check, do the paperwork. I could be charged with obstructing justice. I'm not going to go to jail. So there you have it. All right, let me bring to the microphone Clinton. Clinton is running for Austin City Council, District 1 And this is very important, folks, because we are putting the same people, the same individuals into office. We're putting the same type of person in office in City Austin. We're putting the same type of mayor. It can be a different name, but it's the same type of person. We're putting the same type of, council member in office, and we're getting the exact same results. Austin is being destroyed, literally, from the leadership, and we need to change this. We have a homeless problem. We have a crime problem. We have a law enforcement morale problem. We have so many issues that we need to take care of immediately so we can get back on track to make this city a great city. Clinton, welcome to Come and Talk It, sir.
Thanks for having me on.
Outstanding. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So me and my wife, we moved here back out in 2018. We're originally from California, and I always tell people, hey, look, I'm a refugee, not a missionary. I came here to escape the insanity in California where they have rampant crime, rampant homelessness, high cost of living within density living. And we're just sick and tired of living paycheck to paycheck. And my wife was owning a business. I was in the solar industry out there, and we're making really great money, but we're struggling out there. So we came out to Texas. I've been out here 11 years now total. I was stationed out in El Paso before that and worked with
Stations. That tells me you're in the military.
Yes. 4 years.
Tell me about that.
4 years in the Army. I did one tour to Afghanistan, got out, worked with the Department of Defense for another 3 years. Advanced as far as I could within my job field without a degree. And that's when I ended up back up in California and met up with my wife. And we just kind of agreed that we didn't want to raise a family in that hot mess of a state. And so we escaped from there and came out here and just fell in love with the culture with Austin. And it's like a giant melting pot because you have different cultures and different atmospheres. But we're kind of seeing the same thing happen here in Austin that happened in California. And I'm already seeing what's going to end up happening. We're going to have high electricity costs. We're going to have failing water system, rampant homelessness, where we're already seeing our city officials lie regarding how many people are facing homelessness here in Austin. And right now we're going to be spending $515 million. Next year, it's going to be $1 billion. The year after that, it's going to be even higher, just like San Francisco. So my platform and the reason why I'm running is to bring transparency and accountability back to City Hall, because you can't fix anything without transparency. I mean, you can keep throwing money at it, but if you're doing insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And so I've seen the playbook, and they're literally duplicating the blueprint from California here in Austin. And so on top of the transparency, I want to focus on public safety and lower cost of living. And so with public safety, that is going to include our homelessness problem, and that's going to include with our policing. And so getting our policing levels, dispatchers, EMS, firefighters, getting them all up into a level where they're not working to exhaustion. Because I know when I worked for the Department of Defense, you couldn't hold a weapon if you worked more than 12 to 16 hours, depending on how many days a week that you were working. And then we have officers that are working 16 plus hours while handling a weapon, and that's going to cause chronic fatigue. And mistakes happen when you're worked down to the bone. And when you're on a skeleton crew, things will happen. And that's the last thing we want to see is more mistakes happen within our police department just because they're chronically fatigued. And so getting the policing levels back up, and then also holding our DA accountable. Because if you actually look at 2021 murders, on top of it literally doubling from the year prior, 46% of the solved murders from 2021 were individuals that Jose Garza put back on the street, with either putting them on probation, ankle monitor, dismissing charges, reducing charges, drastically reducing their bonds to where it's like $200,000 down to $9,000. And then they went to go commit a murder within 6 months to 9 months after being put back on the street. And so actually holding people accountable for the crimes that they do and lock them up instead of them putting them back on the street feels like with this progressive mindset that criminals are now the victims and the victims are now the criminals because they're going after us and calling us crazy names for wanting to hold people accountable. With cost of living, that's just a huge mess. We're seeing the housing market being inflated between inflation. You got investor companies like Zillow, BlackRock, Redfin coming in and buying up bulk housing and paying well over the market value, $100,000, $200,000 above the market value, which ends up with a byproduct, your property taxes go up. And so now you get pushed out of your home because you can't afford your property taxes because these people with unlimited capital could buy up homes left and right. And our department services. I mean, we charge way too much to build here in Austin. You're charging $41,000 plus just to build a single family home. And then it takes 6 months to a year just to get a permit. And they're only coming in the office 3 days a week. So we need to really restructure our department services, cut fees so small mom and pops could come out here and build and compete against the big developers, which will drive down costs and also put more housing on the market. So you're not having 20, 30 people bid on a single family home that drives up the market and impacts everybody else in that neighborhood.
All right. And then someone asked, who's your opponent? We're just going to say this name one time only.
Natasha Harper Madison.
Right,
but if you call her by her first name, you're racist.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so next time I'm sitting before a council, I need to call her by her first name then.
Yeah.
What up, Natasha? I can't be racist. Okay.
Shut your mouth.
I can't wait. Okay. So now we know. All right. So and literally she's crazy. I'm telling you right now, she is certifiable. And I don't throw this word out here loosely. When I say she's crazy, I'm not joking. I'm saying she literally needs to be sitting down talking to a therapist, a counselor. She should be admitted into a facility. Crazy is what I'm saying. All right, so there's literally something wrong with her, seriously. And she should not be a city council member at all. She shouldn't be head of anything. She needs to be in a facility and locked up and talking to someone. We have some serious problems here in Austin. We have, like you said, the homeless issue. In North Austin, you know what we did in North Austin? We were finally able to get someone to buy this property, this wooded area where all the homeless were camping out, and they're starting to develop it now. They've gone in, they're clearing the brush, and when they start clearing the brush, they move the homeless out, and we have eliminated our problems in this area in just a week time span. Just 1 week. Zero crime. Zero. That's what I'm saying. Because we got rid of them out of this area. Now, where they moved to, I don't know, but there's some areas. I was actually an opportunity to speak with a group. What's the name of that area?
Community First Village?
Community First Village.
Great organization.
Great area.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on there. Tell us a little bit about Community First Village, what you know of it.
So they're tiny homes, and it's not a place where it's free housing for the homeless. It is paid to live there. You're going to pay anywhere between $200 and $450 a month. So most people that are living on a fixed income live there. They also have places where people can earn an income, whether if they're going to be selling art.
And we come back from the break. We'll talk about Community First Village. We'll talk about Clinton Rary. That's Rarey, running for District 1 City Council in Austin. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coley on Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs,
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, back. And you know, we're talking about the city of Austin. We're talking about crime. We're talking about the homelessness. And you know what, man? Let's see, who is this? We have Thomas says that the current city council refuses to fix the water issue with AWW, but we the people must save water while the city wastes billions of gallons yearly. Clinton.
I've been talking about this subject a lot, and the city of Austin has been leaking 6.5 billion gallons of water per year.
I'm sorry, you said what again? You
That's
said leaking?
billion? Yeah, 6.5 billion gallons of water they leak.
You said leaking.
Yes, leaking. So they're losing water. They're hemorrhaging water in the broken pipes.
Where are the environmentalists?
Exactly.
Where are the environmentalists? How much?
6.5 billion.
Leaking.
Leaking.
Environmentalists. Okay, go ahead. I just want to make
so
sure.
over the last decade, we've actually lost enough water to fill Lake Travis 1.5 times.
Mm,
And now we have city council members talking about wanting to restrict our water usage when instead they going to fix the problem with fixing the leaks. So
Wow.
that's one thing that I want to focus on is our infrastructure versus these utopian ideals of like their climate equity plan where they want to go net zero
Right.
on emissions here in the city. But we have our green belts that are being destroyed there's hundreds of tons of trash out there because I've been going through all the green belts, documenting all the encampments. I got video footage, pictures. And then we had the heavy rain that came through and then just washed all of that trash into our waterways. And so we had hundreds of tons of trash in our waterways. And so I'm like, where are the environmentalists? Like you said, if we really care about our environment, let's stop trying to solve the world's problems and
Right.
solve Austin's problems.
Right. Where are all those people that were complaining about, Interstate 35 and going underneath and all this other kind of stuff? Where are these people now? I'm just curious. We pick and choose the battles, and I just don't get it. If you're concerned about the environment, you're concerned about, what's going on with the world and this planet, this should be a major issue for you. 911, this is an issue. This is where your battle is. I'm a little confused. All right. So also we have an issue with law enforcement. We have an issue with morale with the police department. We have an issue with not having enough law enforcement. We have an issue with when I call 911 and I'm put on hold, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be put on hold in Austin, Texas. We're not that big of a city to where we're that busy, and I'm put on hold when I need 911. I need a police officer. It's an emergency. So you know what? Hey, I'm good with it. If you guys want to go down this road, if you want to do this, you want to keep going this way, not a problem. I own a gun store. It's business. It's going to be more business for me. Come on to the gun store. Be your own first responder. Buy a gun. If that's what you want people to do, that's what they're going to do. Then you vote for the same people in office who have more guns on the street. Go ahead, Clint.
Yeah, I mean, I did a ride along and I did the night shift. So that was from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. And they're so understaffed where they're literally having 3 officers covering a whole district. They had to pull detectives off and put them on patrol. Now we're not solving murder cases or crimes. So that just kind of enables criminals to kind of go out there and do more. And I've actually talked to a few officers to the point where they'll arrest someone that's dealing drugs and they have a weapon and they either have like cocaine, marijuana, which I don't think anybody should be arrested for marijuana in the first place. But the methamphetamines, definitely. They get locked up with, and then they're put back on the street. And then when they talk with the officers, they're like, yeah, I have a gun because the other drug dealer has a gun. And so none of these individuals are actually being prosecuted by the DA, and it just enables the problem. And so criminals get more brazen. They do more stuff. We're seeing more people doing this thing called jugging, where they follow people from the ATMs all the way back to their homes and rob them at gunpoint. And so when criminals feel like they're not going to be prosecuted by the DA, they're going to go out and do more crime. And when we have limited officers, it gets stretched so thin that literally when I went on that ride along, there was calls that weren't being responded for about 45 minutes because they just don't have the manpower to respond to everything.
And so someone says, we the people are now footing the electric bill for all the electric trucks the city just bought. And someone says, hey, but I'm told to cut my electric usage so that the city can use electric trucks. Also, I remember, the person that's sitting in District 1 said that, hey, you know what? Don't wash your dog. That'll save water. An elected official in City of Austin said, don't wash your dog because that will save water. But they're leaking how many gallons?
6.5 billion, that's with a B, gallons of water.
They don't want you to wash your dog. But we haven't solved the problem with our treatment plant. We're still having issues with the treatment plant.
How many boil notices have we had?
They want to blame the governor for the one time we had an electrical problem of the state. That's been fixed. But we're continually having a water problem in this city that they cannot fix. Just remember that, people. Remember the one time we had the snowpocalypse. Power went out. We had an issue with it. Guess what? Okay, I think we solved that problem. But we continue to have the same problem, the same issue with water. Boil water. We're having issues with water constantly over and over and over again. But they want to deflect and they want to push it off on something else because they're trying to confuse you because they know we can only focus on so many different things. Don't let them confuse you. They're incompetent. You got to vote them out. Stop putting these same idiots in office. This person that's in District 1 is an idiot and should not be serving right now. Clinton.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to not agree with you on that. Just got me over here smiling about everything that you're saying. I mean, on top of the water issue, they're already raising the base rate for utilities, so you're going to mandatory pay $120 more on electricity per year because they're incompetence on running the Austin Energy. And then they're going to raise everybody's rates up by 7%, which violates their own policy. I've been working in the solar industry for 7 years, going on 8, ran my own company for 2. Here in Austin, if I said to a homeowner that the average rate in Austin goes up by 3% per year, they would actually remove me from their preferred vendor list, and I could not install in Austin and allow the homeowner to collect that rebate. So Austin Energy is even violating their own policies by asking for a 7% increase by exceeding that 2.5% cap.
Yeah. And we need to do an audit. You really need to, see what's going on and where everything is going because there's definitely some issues here. There's something that they're hiding.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when the city of Austin in 2018, they manipulated their constituents to not do a full city audit by saying, oh, it's dark money that wants to see how well we're doing. That is bait and switch. It's their sleight of hand. If a politician tells you not to look at the books, you definitely look at the books.
Yeah.
And so we need to look
There's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Just move along. There's
These are not the
nothing to
drones
see
you're
here.
looking for.
We're the government. There's nothing to see here.
Yeah, and so that's why a full transparency. And then moving forward after we do audits, I want to have an open source budget because if you actually look at their budget platform that they have, it is great, but it needs to go deeper down into divulging on how the money's being spent, in my opinion, down to the penny. Because we have so many LLCs and subsidiaries that you can't even get an audit within those organizations. And so it's so hard to see how we're actually spending our money because how the city set up LLCs to avoid audits.
Man, I still don't, it pains me that every election, we continue to do the same thing over and over again. Now, let me ask you this, Clinton. What do you say to people that are saying that, hey, District 1 is typically a seat that's reserved for someone who's African American descent, for a city council member? What do you response to that?
If you've actually driven down where it's supposed to be a historical black district, or they have the Black Lives Matter sign spray paint on the street. Every time I go down there, there's like one or two African Americans down there, and it's all white people. The neighborhood has been gentrified. All been pushed out of their homes, and they've already been sold out by Natasha Harper Madison, someone that's supposed to be part of their community. She literally betrayed everybody that lives on or near East 12th Street when they rezoned it to be a cocktail district. And so when these buildings start turning into bars, people are going to move out, sell their homes, and every home that's sold on or around East 12th Street is getting bought up by investors and getting torn down, turned into Airbnbs, and it's turning into a timeshare district. So that historical black district will be gone in the next 5-10 years if they don't have someone stand up and fight for them. And I've actually fought for my country, and I'm willing to fight for my city. And if you're going to make it about skin color, then I guess I'm not the right candidate for you, because I don't look at someone's skin color and figure out what's the best thing for them. I figure out what's the best thing for our city. And we're spending way too much money. People are being pushed out of their homes. People are can't afford groceries because of inflation. And now you have the city raising base rates on everything. They're raising the water rates. They're going to be raising the electricity rates. They're talking about raising the parkland fees. So instead of figuring out how we can make things cheaper for Austinites during this struggling time from COVID and shipping delays and inflation, we could figure out how we can reduce the cost burden so people aren't struggling day to day until we can recover. Because I don't think we'll fully recover from this COVID shutdown lockdown where Mayor Adler destroyed the small business industry and we literally let big corporations thrive. It's going to take us at least another 5-10 years to recover from that, in my opinion. But if we don't get people that's willing to actually fight for you versus sell you out to developers, then nothing's going to change.
Now, what about a balanced budget? Can we really get to a balanced budget here in Austin?
Not until we do a full audit. So unless we have a full audit to see how we're actually spending our money, there'll never be a balanced budget.
All right. And then what about accountability? What we're talking about there?
So first thing I want to do when I get into office is I want to look at the online survey that they did for the East 12th Street to justify putting it to a vote to rezone it to a bar district. And if there are multiple submissions from people that were not verified to live in that area, I want criminal charges pushed against everybody that handled that survey because they manipulated the system to push it for a vote. And I went door to door and I spoke with everybody on 12th, 13th, and 11th and New York Avenue. And everybody that answered the door, which was about 55 people, 45 were against it. And they said they got petitions signed. And then 10 people were even unaware about the rezoning. They didn't even know it was happening. And I told them, I was like, well, they already changed it yesterday. And they're pissed. They're like, I never got a notice in the mail. Nobody ever came to my door, even though Natasha Harper Madison said, yeah, we went around the neighborhood and we surveyed everybody. No, you didn't. You're lying to people. It's a bait and switch. You go to these HOA meetings and you harass people. You push them out. You literally made the president of one of the communities down there move because you're harassing him so hard.
All right, we're listening to Clinton Rary. Clinton Rary. He's running for Austin City Council District 1. That's Rarey. When you go to the polls, definitely vote for Clinton Rary. We come back from the break. We're going to hear more from Clinton. We're going to talk about some news going around the country. We got to get to this gun news. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coleon Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, we're going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're in Austin, Texas. Let's stay in Austin for right now, and then we're going to travel around just a little bit. All right, so Austin, Texas. Man, earlier this week, the Austin Police Department says it secured the scene that is safe. They call the Ascension Seton Northwest Hospital. So basically what happened is someone thought they heard a gunshot inside the hospital in North Austin. And so everything was sent that direction. Several ambulances, several commanders, every police officer in the area was sent to Austin, the Northwest Austin Hospital, because they thought shots were fired. There's an active shooter. We're going to have a mass casualty incident. And it was all because someone thought heard a gunshot. And I'm probably willing to bet it was a balloon. That's all it was, because there was no gunshot. There was no gunshot. Once they got there, they did an investigation. Turned out there was no gunpowder, no smell, no shell casings, no nada, no nothing. Need to relax, people. Okay, we need to relax. You need to get yourself out to the gun range and shoot some guns and, maybe get some little therapy or something else is going on, because it's not that serious. Okay?
Learn how to identify an actual gunshot versus balloon pop.
Yeah, because I'm guarantee you that someone had several balloons and a little kid just popped a balloon, couple balloons, because he was tired of the balloons popping them, sticking them in the face or something like that. So not so serious. So relax. We just wasted, a lot of resources, because someone thought they heard a gunshot. You got to think, you got to use all your senses. Use your nose, use your ears. Got to use everything, before you were calling in resources for something like that. What did you see? What did you hear? All right, let's go to Florida. Man, good old Florida. I love Florida. I was just in Florida, and Florida's beautiful. At least it was. I'm moving to Florida. Even after the hurricane, I'm going to Florida. I'm just going to hold on to trees and just hang on. I'd rather get taken out by a hurricane than die by a homeless person, stabbed to death.
Why would you do that?
Stabbed to death here in Austin. I'd rather go to Florida and die in a hurricane.
Reject Ribble Austin, embrace Florida, man.
That's right. So let's go to Florida. So there's a reporter in Florida. She was using a condom to protect her microphone during the hurricane broadcast. My precious. Listen to this reporter.
A lot of people are asking, what is on my microphone? It is what you think it is. It's a condom. It helps protect the gear. We can't get these mics wet. There's a lot of wind. There's a a lot of rain, so we got to do what we got to do, and that is put a condom on the microphone.
Well, I tell you got to do what you got to do. I love that. Got to do what you got to do. She's getting it done and reporting, and she's out there when probably no one else wanted to be out there. And there's a hurricane coming through, and she's doing the job. My hat's off to you, with the condom or without.
No joke. I mean, if you actually consider it and you watch a lot of the news and you see a nasty storm weather coming through and there's somebody out reporting in there, they either have like a plastic bag or a trash bag covering that. Because she is correct. That stuff is highly sensitive. You get that any kind of the wet or anything, you will fry the electronics. It's no joke.
You know what? God, why I have so many stories for Austin? I don't know why. But we got something else in Austin, Texas, and this was underreported. So apparently, probably a week or so ago, in Austin, Texas, there was a black self-defense group held an armed Second Amendment unity walk. The march was reportedly led by the Elmer Geronimo Pratt Pistol and Rifle Gun Club. They marched towards the Texas Capitol while some of them were chanting, "Close the border and take your Alpha Sierra home." In response to Governor Abbott recently sent thousands of migrants by bus throughout the country. The Black Riders Liberation Party was also present, and the group also demanded reparations for the descendants of black slaves. We don't say, here's a statement from one of the people on the ground. We don't say hands up, don't shoot, one explained. Guns up, they chanted, shoot back. Though political extremism has always been around, there seems to have been a spike of it since 2010 and 2011. A clear dividing shift took place then. I believe around the same time Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party movements were taking place, armed militia movements began coming more popular during Obama's first term and more so under Trump's term. This is not one side or the other, mind you. And left and right-wing groups alike have begun embracing this. Now, white nationalism, black separatism, and black nationalism. Now, armed left and armed right, this remains a growing movement. As time progresses and administrations continue to fail their voter base and fail Americans in general, the anti-government armed mentality grows ever more so. Now, divisive and toxic narratives from multinational corporations, academia, and mainstream media sow dissent and hate amongst average day Americans, and this fuels the fires of these movements. So this was underreported, because they want to make you think that people in the black community don't like firearms, and that's not so. That's really not so. So there are a lot of people out there in the black community that do support the Second Amendment. So when you have people like Beto O'Rourke talking about universal background checks, yes. That's very dangerous. Universal background checks. What that means is that all sales, that's private sales, that's commercial sales, all sales will need to be, gone through a background check system. And, you got to be careful of that. We're talking about, regulating private sales from private individuals. That's something we've never done, in this country. Private sales from one person to another. I should be able to sell a product from one, something that I have in my house and sell it to someone else without having to get the government involved in it. And I don't think that's how our Constitution, how we set up this country. So we don't need the government in our business. Just saying. And some people need to be concerned about that because when I go to do these little talks, when I go to, Community First Village, when I go to East Austin, when I go do these talks, these communities around the city, the state, the country, I always get people that will ask me, well, Michael, I was convicted of a felony about 20, 30 years ago, and have been an outstanding citizen ever since, and now I want to purchase a firearm and have a gun at home for personal protection. What do I do? Well, I have to tell them, you're a convicted felon. You can never, ever walk into a gun store to purchase a firearm. And if you pass universal background checks, that person will not be able to buy it as a private sale if you pass universal background checks. So currently right now at the 5 years in Texas, at the 5 years, if you're a convicted felon and you're off of paper, everything's been disposed, you can actually have a gun at home for personal protection. You just have to buy it as a private sale or as a gift. But if you pass universal background checks, that will prohibit private sales. What are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's great that after 5 years, if they've been good citizens, that they can take up their personal rights back.
Right.
Because that's one thing that I didn't like is if someone does become a good citizen, that they lose their rights for life.
Mm-hmm.
Like in states like California.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know why people live in that state. Let me tell you.
California.
Well, welcome to Texas. Glad you came.
People's Republic of California.
All right, so let me see here. I got some comments. Michael, does the candidate know why the place one seat has been reserved for an African American? Also, per the FCC equal time rule, will you have the other candidate on your show as well? Yes, I will have the other candidate on my show, Billy, for equal time, just so you know. I actually invite everyone to come on my show. And the problem is people, and we make that offer, and we only have to make the offer, and they tend to either not respond or whatever. It tends to be what the problem is. But I do always offer people to come onto this show, and a lot of people don't want to sit in the hot seat. Yeah, they're afraid or they're scared. So, but I am going to make sure that I invite all candidates from District 1 into the hot seat. We do that always. I can't wait for the mayor's race. I'm going to invite, I can't wait.
But yeah, regarding his second part, District 1 is not reserved for someone that's African American. It's just what City Council has publicly announced that it should be. And that's it is discrimination, because then that means that nobody else that is African American that lives in any other district can run for those seats, because now they're saying, oh, only District 1 is for African Americans. So now you're segregating District 1 again by saying that only someone of that race can hold that seat.
And so basically what someone is saying is before the city was divided into districts, there was a gentleman's agreement. But since we divide the city, it should not be legal. So now the city's being divided up. They don't have that gentleman's agreement anymore, because we've allowed ladies into the seat as well. Don't call me. Don't write me. Don't text. Don't text me. It is what it is. I didn't use the word gentleman's agreement, back in the 60s or 50s or 40s. So they came up with that statement themselves. And then also someone says, hey, Billy, if you listen to the other side here, you probably will need therapy. I listened to hear about the water issue, and she should be in jail. I'm not sure what that means.
Oh, Thomas. He's talking about her rant about saying it's non-essential to wash your car. It's non-essential to wash your grass. It's non-essential to do your laundry and your dishes at the same time. Not-essential to wash your dog. So that's when he's talking about you need therapy to hear what she says.
But we really do need some new leadership in that seat. So there are a lot of the candidates that are there. We're like I said, we are inviting these candidates to the show. So we'll see. When we come back from the break, I'm talking about this and more. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, Quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and my right to my attorney. Once you do that, the police legally shouldn't continue questioning you without your attorney present. But remember, there's a second part to this equation. After invoking your rights, you must exercise those rights. That means you have to keep your mouth closed. Protect yourself. Don't let the legal system take advantage of you after an incident. And Law Shield members, if you've been involved in a self-defense incident, remember to call the emergency hotline and speak with your independent program attorney.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so I want to go a little bit to let's go in California. So apparently in California,
Why would you do that?
I know. I don't know why, but I'm gonna virtually go to California. You know who's in California, by the way?
Who?
Gary's in California.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, Gary drove to California. Don't break down, Gary. We hope to see you back here real soon. All right, so apparently in California, Governor Newsom signs a bill limiting use of rap lyrics as evidence in court against artists. So among the 400 or so bills that the California Governor Gavin Newsom either signed or vetoed this week was AB 2799, which provides the courts that must consider specific factors in determining whether creative expression evidence is more prejudicial than probative. So Newsom signed into law today, this week, a virtual ceremony attended by Meek Mill, Killer Mike, Too Short, Ty Dolla $ign, YG, E40, some people that I can't even name, I can't even pronounce, as well as CEO of the Recording Academy, Harvey Mason Jr., and the bill's sponsor, Assemblyman Reggie Jones Sawyer, Democrat from Los Angeles. Dubbed the Decriminalizing Artistic Expression Act. The law seeks to, among other things, address the use of rap lyrics as evidence in trials. Specifically, it states that the court must weigh the value of the evidence against the substantial danger of undue prejudice. And California is the first state to ensure creative content like lyrics and musical videos and can't be used against artists in court without judicial review. What do you say to that?
Probably means you could actually go ahead, commit a murder, and then just rap about the time, the date, the location, and the shot placement and get away with it.
It's a lot there. It's a lot.
Put 2 to the chest and call it a day. Nah, sorry, we can't use that in court. That's rap lyrics.
So the law also extends to those considerations to other mediums such as TV and film, and ordering courts to define creative expression as the expression or application of creativity or imagination in the production of or arrangement of forms, sounds, words, movements, and symbols, including but not limited to music, dance, performance art, visual art, poetry, literature, film, and other such object or media. So you can sing about committing a crime or rap about committing a crime and then not that be used against you in court? Is that how I
Pretty much.
Sounds like you do a TV show too about the whole process on how you did it. I mean, it falls into that whole progressive thing about turning criminals into victims and then the real victims into criminals.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody says, we all getting off with murder. Shout out to YG and E40. I don't know who these people are. I'm losing it. I tell you, I'm getting too old. Now I don't know. Oh, man, I've now become my parents. I've now become my parents. I don't know what's going on. I don't know these names. Oh, this is sad.
E40's big in the Bay Area.
Is it really?
Yeah, he's real big.
Okay, I don't even know who he is.
You got to be from the Bay Area to really know who he is.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my YG E40. I'm like, I'm lost. I'm completely lost. It's sad.
Sorry, I'm old school. Give me NWA. Give me Notorious Big, and give me Tupac.
All right, so I haven't seen anything making it illegal. If you have links, please submit them. Also, I'm looking out for Michael, who simulcast via 1370 AM. The FCC has rules. Just saying. All right, so I think he's talking about the having the other candidates on the air on this show. All right, so we'll come back to that later in another day. All right, so, all right, and man, what's the other story we're going to talk about? The lack of lack of manufacturing support. What is that all about?
So, being the, as I like to say, dork behind the counter, I mean, I drive this guy nuts. I'll have people bring me coffee to work. I'm telling him, hey, look, you want your stuff faster?
And let me tell you people something. Stop bringing him coffee to work. Okay, I'm telling you right now.
Or at least bring him a bottle of Jack so he can handle it.
You need to bring me a bottle of liquor if you're going to bring him coffee, because I need to put up with him. Okay? I can only put up with so much of him. And
Yes,
I definitely can't put up with him when he takes about
I
3 cups of coffee or more.
I am a slight maniac behind the counter, but I get it all the time. So, I ordered this about 2 months ago. Do you know where it is? And unfortunately, I don't have the secret handshakes. I don't have the passcodes. I don't have the ability for me to get in touch with the distributors to say, where is it? 2 minutes later, somebody come on in, same company. Hey, they just released this whole brand new gun. Are you able to get your hands on it? And here I am going.
And what guns we're talking about, for example?
SIG, you are one of the biggest culprits of this. You just introduced the P365 macro. You are introducing for pre-order the SIG Spear Light in 300 Blackout, which is based on your new infantry rifle.
So SIG Sauer has some new guns they just released.
Not even available for purchase yet. These are on back order with our distributors.
They're advertising these things. They got pictures of them.
They're in pictures. They have universal product codes preset for these. You can literally look them up on multiple websites.
What are they called again?
The SIG Spear Light. The SIG Macro. SIG Macro, I see these all the time on Gunbroker. Guess what? Our distributors don't have access to them. Meanwhile, I can't even get a hold of your P365 X's or XLs from almost 3 months ago that you introduced. Where are they? Seriously.
So what you're saying is they're introducing new products out there. Your gun manufacturers, some of them, introducing new products, and they can't even restock the old products.
Exactly. Springfield Armory. Remember there was the Browning high power clone, the SA-35, that came out like early in the year, and this was a huge rage. Everybody was fighting over this thing, and like 3 months later, it's off. It was like crickets. All of a sudden, the Prodigy DS comes out, and it's a whole new thing. Meanwhile, I have people waiting for their Springfield 35s, their Hellcats, their Hellcat Pros, their XDEMs, their XDs. Nobody's making, where Are you just stopping all production of your old stuff just to break out a bunch of new stuff, like limited batches? Like, what's going on here?
And then we're standing there like, everybody
We
like,
have
hey,
to hold
where's my gun?
We have dropped. Everybody looks at us like we've dropped the ball. We haven't dropped
Like,
the ball. They're
it's
not
coming.
making the things.
It's coming. We're waiting. It'll be here shortly.
Wait.
Hang in there.
The only thing I can say,
hurry up and wait.
Yeah, hurry up and wait. Best thing I can always say is, you know what? I have no clue. Whenever somebody asks for something in, what do you have for ETA on back order? The ETA for back order is as soon as I see it for distributors, which is I may know nothing. Who knows? There's nothing but nothing.
Yeah. And some of the bad ones are revolvers too.
Oh my gosh.
Revolvers are more hands-on, and people don't understand that it's taking revolvers a little longer. Post the pandemic.
Yes. Speaking of revolvers, Smith & Wesson is they're mainly focusing on their snub nose right now, the 38 Special Hammerless specifically. They have a lot of those out on market, the snub nose 38s. They just introduced, and I can't even find the thing, a 350 Legend X-Frame. Rifle caliber revolver, 7-shot in the X-Frame series. They just introduced this to market, and it's not even available. The MMP series, they are very good about keeping those up to date. They just introduced the metal, and I just had somebody, the only reason why I knew about it was because somebody had one transferred in. I'm like, what is this thing? I look, back order.
Seeing a lot with companies nowadays.
Back order. Yeah. The only company, and this is amazing. Are you ready for it, Mike? This will flip your lid. Are you ready for who's actually keeping up with their production and their advertising at the same time? Taurus. Taurus. Remember how far back they were shut down?
They were really backed up big time.
I just looked on our own shop website. We have available from our distributors their brand new GX4 race gun, their GX4 XL, the new Taurus G3 tactical with threaded barrel and suppressor height sights.
Oh, wow.
They have just introduced those on their website as sellable guns, brand new for 2022, and they actually have those out in the world.
Wow.
Keltec was at least smart. Keltec introduced in 2022, very first thing in January, the P15, which is the now smallest double-stack magazine capacity handgun on the market in 15 rounds. Their website specifically stated, delivering late summer, early fall. Guess what? They are still on track to actually meet that deadline.
Love it.
Other than that, Ruger, you just introduced the 5.7 carbine. Where is it? You just introduced the brand new AR-10 platform that you just made. Where is it? My distributors are on back order with both of those. Come on.
I know. We got to talk about the Battle of Gonzales. When we come back from the break, I want to talk about that. And because this show is called Come and Talk It, then, they've got to tell you a little bit about the history of Come and Take It. So we come back from the break, talk about that. Also, Clinton's going to give us his website. How can we reach him? How can we support him? How can we volunteer to block walk and all that good kind of stuff? Because he needs some help. We need to make a change here in Austin, Texas. We need to get back to the old Austin. We need to get rid of these people that are destroying this city and, from the inside out. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hi, this is Stephen Williford, the Barefoot Defender. I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
He didn't act that way. He never flinched. He went for his pockets. And when he went for his pockets, I thought my heart was going to stop. Hi, my name's Jerry. The incident we're going to talk about took place in early March of 2017. Started back about 3 years ago. We had a fella in the neighborhood that nobody really knew. We weren't familiar with him, and he was pretty regular about speeding up and down the street. It escalated into more speeding, threats. He chunked some rocks up into the yard and broke my windshield in my truck, and it escalated from that into death threats. And was constantly chirping about how he was going to end it and he was going to kill so-and-so, he was going to kill me, and it was all chirping. The day of the confrontation, I was leaving the neighborhood and heading to a meeting in downtown Fort Worth. It was a beautiful day. I had my windows down. I was in my Suburban. As I was heading out, just about to leave my neighborhood, this guy comes into the neighborhood, sees me coming out, pulls into my lane, causes me to stop, and then he kind of cut at an angle in front of me and jumped out of his truck and ran at the side of my Suburban, saying, "Today's the day you're going to die. He's going to end it." He comes over and he's slamming his hands up against the side of my vehicle, my truck. But he's screaming at me, telling me he's going to kill me. He's going to end it. This is the day I'm going to die. He reaches in to try and open up my door. I grabbed my weapon. I put my weapon right at his chest at the window and told him to get back, told him to get the hell back. And he never did. He never moved. He never changed anything. He went for his pockets, shuffling into his pockets, and he pulls out his cell phone. I drove off around and called 911 before I got to the end of my street. Yeah, I've carried a weapon for pretty near 20 years, and I've never had to pull my weapon out. Now, I can tell you that when you do that, it's the emotions are incredible. You feel the flush come through your body because you just pulled a weapon on somebody, you're pointing a gun at somebody, and they don't move. And that's a whole nother, they didn't say, "Whoa, stop," like anybody that you'd think would do that, but he didn't act that way.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
Today is the anniversary of the Battle of Gonzales. The Battle of Gonzales was the first military engagement of the Texas Revolution. It was fought near Gonzales, Texas on October the 2nd, 1835, between the rebellious Texan settlers and a detachment of Mexican army soldiers. In 1831, Mexican authorities lent the settlers of Gonzales a small cannon to help protect them from frequent Comanche raids. Over the next 4 years, the political situation in Mexico deteriorated, and in 1835, several states revolted. As the unrest spread, Colonel Domingo de Rita, the commander of the Mexican troops in Texas, felt it unwise to leave the residents of Gonzales with a weapon and request the return of the cannon. So Colonel Domingo, when the initial request was refused, he sent 100 dragoons to retrieve the cannon. And the soldiers near Gonzales on September 29, they did this. And so the colonists said, "Hey, hold on, They gave them a variety of excuses to keep them from entering the town, while secretly sending messages to request assistance from nearby communities. Within 2 days, up to 140 Texans gathered in Gonzales, all determined not to give up the cannon. On October the 1st, settlers voted to initiate a fight, and Mexican soldiers opened fire as Texans approached their camp in the nearly hours on October the 2nd. After several hours of firing and going back and forth, the Mexican soldiers withdrew. And so this was the beginning of the Battle of Gonzales, the Texas Revolution, October the 2nd, 1835, and hence the phrase, "Come and take it." And that's why we get the name of the show, Come and Talk It, from that.
And that is where the canon above the words "come and take it" comes from.
That's right. And so, Clinton, tell us where can we find you? Where's your website, social media? What do you have coming up? Can we come out and help you? In the future, what's going on?
Yeah, so you can go to my website to learn more about my platform, and that's going to be clintonrary.com. So that's CLINTONRAREY.com. And you can also follow me on Twitter if you want to hear my daily thoughts and what things that I'm trying to do here in Austin and things I disagree with. My Twitter handle is Clinton Rary. And my email, if you have any questions directly, you could submit them on my website or to my email, which is going to be RAREY, the number 4, ATXD, and the number 1 at protonmail.com. So Proton is PROTONMAIL.com. And for the next October 24th, we're going to be hitting the doors pretty hard. I've knocked on 15,000 doors so far. We plan on hitting another 5,000 to 10,000 doors by October 24th. We're the only one that's going out there grinding and actually talking to the people. The biggest thing I hear is like, hey, you're like actually the first person that actually is running for any office that's knocked on my door for 10, 15, 20 years, or they're a third generation Austinite and nobody's ever came and actually spoken to them. And so a lot of people are appreciating that somebody's actually going out there and doing the work. We did a big barbecue last weekend where we cooked enough food to feed 1,000 people, fed about 500. And then after the event, I was going door to door, just filling people's pots up with chicken and giving out refried beans and rice. So I'm just going out there doing the work. I'm trying to give back the money that I'm getting donated to, because I don't want to be spending all my money on yard signs like the other candidates are, where each yard sign can literally feed a family.
Right. And then what events do you have coming up?
So right now there are several candidate forums that I'm going to be attending. I'll post them on my website because I don't know them on the top of my head right now. So I'll definitely put an events page on there later tonight, so everybody will be able to see it first thing Monday.
All right, nice. All right, awesome. And what's your Twitter handle and your
Twitter
Facebook?
handle is going to be at Clinton Rary. So again, ClintonRarey.
All right, good. I want to make sure people get that. All right, awesome. Man, that's Clinton. He's running for District 1, Austin City Council. Definitely check him out. We need to definitely get some change here in this city. We got to solve the issues that we have. We can't put the same type of person into office over and over again.
And if you can't donate or block walk, I highly encourage you at least go talk to 10 people in your district. Just get them out there. If they're not registered to vote, make sure they get registered before October 11th.
All right, let's travel to Indonesia real quick. Indonesia, at least 129 people were killed and dozens were injured in a riot that erupted in the Indonesia soccer match. 129 people were injured. Died. 129 died. So police firing tear gas after an Indonesia soccer match in an attempt to stop violence triggered a disastrous crush of fans making a panicked, chaotic run for exits, leaving at least 129 people dead, most of them trampled upon or suffocated. Attention immediately focused on police crowd control measures at Saturday night's match between the host team. Witnesses describe officers beating them with sticks and shields before shooting tear gas canisters directly into the crowds. Man, 129. Wow.
And I thought British football was pretty rough.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah, Europe, their soccer/football, man, that is no joke. They will literally fight over each other, tooth and nail, off the field, on the field, out in the parking lot over their team. So that Indonesia, I'm kind of not surprised about the Indonesia riot, but I'm also pretty surprised about what the police response caused. That is kind of overkill.
And so once again, I want to remind you guys about the FBI ATF are fishing for our information from FFL dealers. The FBI implemented 2 new requirements of the National Instant Criminal Background Check System this week. That process, says that, hey, FFL dealers have got to provide data, some information to the CJIS, the Criminal Justice Information System. These updates were made for the purpose of compliance with the new federal law. The Knicks Denial Notification Act of 2022. It was signed by Congress, signed by the president, Joe Biden, went into effect. And so it actually officially, that act starts on October the 1st, but the ATF they started it on September 26th. The new law requires the FBI to notify state and local or tribal law enforcement of all denied firearms transactions within their jurisdiction within 24 hours. FFLs will be required to provide the buyer's personal information, including the buyer's complete address, to Knicks when a firearms transaction is denied or delayed. The additional personal information will be required before the transaction status can be communicated by the FBI to the FFL. However, an alarming feature of this new requirement compels an FFL to report to the FBI the personal information of a person whose firearm transaction is merely delayed and not denied. The language used by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF, in a recent letter to FFLs mandates this data acquisition to include customers who are ultimately approved for firearms transactions after being delayed. This is a mandate that is not set forth in the law passed by Congress. And the Knicks process was never intended to hinder the ability of law-abiding firearms consumers by requiring the forced collection of unnecessary personal consumer data in bulk. Neither the ATF nor the FBI can act beyond authority of Congress and violate the Constitution by furthering the ultimate goal of creating an illegal firearms owner database. Recognizing that the constitutional rights of a customer's privacy are being violated by extending this report requirement to delayed customers, and since the requirement exceeds the scope of the plain language of the Knicks Denial Notification Act, I request that the immediate removal of language in the ATF's new interpretation of the Knicks process so as to prevent its application to delayed individuals. I'm additionally recommending customers get a concealed handgun license or their license to carry handgun so that they can avoid this governmental overreach by the FBI and the ATF. All right, so, and I think back to, this week, Netflix, they released, some documentaries like John Wayne Gacy. He didn't use a gun. He used a rope. He used a knife. He drugged people, and he ended up killing over 30 people. Never fired a shot.
I think that was Dahmer, but yeah, that same thing.
I look at Jeffrey Dahmer. Same thing. He didn't use a gun. He used a rope. He used drugs. Same thing. Dahmer learned from John Wayne Gacy, and he killed over 20 people. I go to September the 11th. Remember September 11th? 9/11? You know how many people were killed? Almost 3,000 people were killed during 9/11. Not one shot was fired. Not a gun. It was a plane. It was a box cutter knife. That was used. We get caught up in this trap of thinking about firearms. And when evil shows itself, you got to watch out. We got to worry. We need to focus on parenting. Need to focus on raising your kids, being there as a father, being there as a mother, raising that child, so that way that kid doesn't become evil and overtakes and comes out into the world and shows itself. We got to do better as people. We got to do better as parents, because that is the real problem. That's the issue. Be parents. Raise your kids. Raise them right. Send them to school. Be that authority to let them know when they're right or wrong. As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.